All right, I am about to get started. Thanks everyone for chiming in. Continue to talk in the chat. I keep my eye on the chat throughout the session. So anytime you have a question, just pop it in there. I might not answer it right away, but I do keep an eye out so that I can answer it as I go along. Now, before I formally get into the session, I'm going to start a GeoGebra classroom. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, I'll show this again in the middle of the session, but I want to start off with like a little welcome activity. Here we go. A little trouble with this page. All right, so here is a little welcome activity that I have in GeoGebra, and I'm going to basically have you guys participate in it and kind of use it as a little survey for the rest of the session. So I'm going to go to the top button here and create a lesson for you guys. All right, and I'm going to paste this link into the chat for you all. Please join. And while you kind of get situated joining into this classroom, I'll introduce myself and talk a little bit about what this session is all about. So hi, everyone. My name is Monique. You can find me on Twitter at math_Monique. But if I will be real, I'm not super active on social media, but please tweet also at FLGGB, just so the organizers can get your feedback on what you think of this session or the others. I mean, I've heard that it's been going really well so far, but we want to hear directly from you. So if you're comfortable, please do that. Basically, what I do for GeoGebra is my official job title is lead curriculum designer, but what I tell people is I do online interactive math curriculum and instructional design. So what that means is I not only think about math teaching, but I just think about instructional design in general. So that it even includes things like not only teaching math, but I think about things like teaching teachers math, or even teaching teachers how to teach others math. And so the way that I wanted to formulate this session was really looking at this concept of we have digital tools, on GeoGebra that are free. You got to see a lot of the different products in a lot of different sessions today, and how a lot of the different use cases for them. But I also wanted to address things like quality content, specifically open educational resources and OER. So if you're familiar with GeoGebra already, you'll know that everything on the site is free. All the things that you've seen in the session, if you are talking to a colleague about it, all the things that you've seen are free. There is no paywall. And that really opens things up for just a lot of accessibility, a lot of creativity, a lot of customization, personalization in the education space. And I really like the talking about just the relationship between these two things. We have the tools that kind of exist now that we're in this modern age. We have the content, which is something that we always need to teach the meat of what we're doing, but we really see how these two things come together. And so as I help talk about and walk through a few of the features, I'm hoping to just empower everyone to really use these things for something called formative assessment. So now I wanted to just clarify a couple of terms before we continue on. I'm going to pause our classroom activity for now because I'm going to ask a few questions and I want to see you guys chime into the chat. But I wanted to clarify the term formative assessment, especially in contrast to summative assessment. So feel free to answer these questions as they pop up, but what is it? in a few words, how would you describe formative assessment to, say, like a colleague? I'll give it a couple seconds for messages to come through. I like these responses. I see progress monitoring, questions as you go, benchmarks, quick checks. Yeah, great. Yeah, so basically, formative assessment is just in contrast to summative. Summative, usually the word you think of as summation, right? So it's cumulative, like you're assessing kind of at the end of everything that you've taught, how students are doing or where they're at. Usually there's things like exams or group projects or presentations. That's how you would assess someone. But formative assessment is really as you go. It's checking where they're at as they're teaching. So formative assessment can be done beginning or end of a week, a day, like a class session, or even throughout the sessions, you're kind of checking in on students. So my next question is, why do we care about it? Why is this important to kind of distinguish the two or even address formative assessment? I'll let you guys take some time to type in the chat. All right, great. Great responses. Yeah, as a teacher, you want to know where your students are at before it's too late. You want to also adapt to your students. Maybe you have like one class where they're really stuck on a certain concept that another group of students will grasp right away. Maybe you need to change up some of the activities because they're not really accessible to some of them. Or you just need to do something to keep them more engaged or address misconceptions. And so formative, you really you want to check in, not just how students are doing with a concept, like their understanding of it, but also just to see how they're feeling about the class or the topic. And then the last question I had about this is, how can we use it? How can we use formative assessment? Can you guys give me some examples of what formative assessment activities look like? Yeah, I guess to keep moving along, some examples that I would give is you have like pre-diagnostics, you have like a welcome activity, you have exit tickets, you can just do polls in class, things like that. And so I'm going to hop back into just the classroom that I made earlier. I'm going to unpause and just talk about from a teacher's perspective, kind of what I'm looking out for as we're combing through like things like lessons or activities or thinking about how to what kind of ways that I can see for my students how they're doing. All right, so this is my view of GeoGebra Classroom, and I see that there's 25 students who are participating in it. That's great. And from this view, I can also look at just what tasks students are on. So I'm just seeing, I can even get an overview of how quickly students are kind of going through materials. I can anonymize this. So something that I like to do personally is I like to hide the names. And I like to do something like maybe look at a specific task, right? I want to show my class, oh, like, you know, this is, I can project this on the screen and say, hey, like, this is how we're all feeling today, you know, like, and then I can adjust my class time as I go along based on how they're feeling. So if you looked originally at this task, this is one that Tim Brzezinski made. Is one of my favorite applets to just use to gauge just my attendees in my sessions. We have also things like multiple choice questions that I like to use for polling. So I like to use this to see, okay, like how confident are my students in a certain task or concept? Do they feel like they can maybe like teach another student how this concept? And based on that, I might want to do a little bit more drilling or review before at the beginning of my class session. I also like this, which is using things like GeoGebra notes. Here, something I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the original lesson looks like that I'm pulling from. So if I go to the menu at the top, I can view the original. So this is the original lesson that I created the classroom out of. And I like to embed a GeoGebra notes applet in here and use it at the beginning of, say, like an entire school year or a semester, and use it for something like, can you describe your math identity? So this is a great way to kind of survey the class and understand where they're coming from, their feelings towards math, and they have different options for like pasting it in. As you might have seen from other sessions, you can insert a lot of different types of media. So for example, if someone wanted to put like an image of how they're feeling, or even like a little soundbite or a song, or just write something out, they can do any of those things. And they can even like upload a meme or something like that that helps to get at how they're feeling. But this is information that we can use to address how our students are doing and how they're learning. And again, like you can continue to see, there's a lot of different applets that you can embed into a GeoGebra lesson, even some of the graphing calculators and the construction tools. And you can use these to look at things like, maybe there's like a misconception, or just to take a peek at, oh, what is kind of hindering the students? Is it things like they don't know how to use the tools, or is it actually like there's a gap in their understanding? Right. So yeah, this is generally kind of an overview of how I like to use GeoGebra Classroom for very basic, like formative assessment check-ins. And now I want to talk about how we can kind of plug and play a lot of these things into an existing lesson that you maybe have formulated for your class. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was open educational resources, or for short, I refer to it as OER. And really quickly, I'll just so that we have time for everything else, what is it? It's kind of in the name. Open educational resources, whether they're text, they're print materials, or they're audio, video, other digital resources that are open, whether it is under Creative Commons or there's some other licensing for those resources that basically makes it publicly available to use. Why do we care about OER? Well, if it's open, it's free. We can get rid of a lot of like the financial barriers, and we can also creatively collaborate with others in getting to use these resources. And then how can we use it? Well, kind of there's a lot that you can do, and I'm going to refer to the 5 R's of OER. So usually when I am creating content, or I'm kind of curating a lot of content on GeoGebra, I think about how would another user do these things. So for example, like retain. I want to think about, okay, I want to create OER that users can make copies of, and they can basically keep their own copies of if they want to use it in the future. I want my students or my users to reuse a lot of their content. So if they want to use it in a different context, or change it up and then, continue to use it, they can revise. Like, is the work that I'm doing able to be revised by others or remixed, where they can pull and grab and put them together and redistribute. So have I created things in a way where users can change it up and then redistribute again? And so if you've noticed, these 5 R's of OER apply to a lot of the content that's on GeoGebra. The things that you can just search up or look at the resource collections, those are retain, reuse, revise, remix, redistribute, are the things that you can do with all the content on GeoGebra. And as you've seen from previous sessions, these are all things that they talked about how to do. So now I'm going to go into an OER curriculum in particular. Now, GeoGebra has been hosting illustrative math content for the last year and a half. This is one of the big projects that I personally got to work on, so it's a little bit of a baby to me. And illustrative math, for those of you who are just not familiar with it, or for those of you who are outside of the United States, illustrative math is a US curriculum that is OER, so it's open to use. It's open to, you can do the 5 R's with them. On GeoGebra, what we've done with the illustrative math curriculum is taken what was originally paper-based and adapted a lot of the content so that it can be done digitally, especially in recent years and for this day and age. So for those of you who are following along, you can go to geogebra.org/IM to kind of follow along and look at how our illustrative math curriculum is organized. So currently we have middle school and high school curriculum, which is grades 6 to 8, 9 through 12. And you can take a look and explore these things. I'm a big proponent of, I'll just show you what exists, and then you can go and explore it for yourself, and you can learn better that way. But for now, for this example, I want to show you something in middle school. And the way that illustrative math is organized is you have your courses. So in this case, for middle school, 6, 7, and 8. If I picked grade 7, there's a bunch of units or like chapters for each topic. So I'm going to go to Unit 5, Rational Number Arithmetic, and then go to a specific lesson that I personally was looking at earlier. But as you're navigating through IM, you might notice that, for example, in lesson 7 of Unit 5, there's a link to teacher materials and student materials. So the teacher materials is a link to one of IM's formal partners, and Kendall Hunt. And on the Kendall Hunt site, you can find a lot of the printable resources, the teacher resources, with things like standards, learning goals, glossaries, and then some of these printables like solution sets and extra assessments. All you need to do is have a teacher account to register with IM Kendall Hunt, and then you can have access to a lot of these things as supplements. So we link that there, but within GeoGebra, we provide a link to student materials, which is a book that contains a lesson component and a practice component. That's generally in IM. The lesson component is kind of like what you have students do in class, and the practice is just a set of problems for review and preview, to kind of help students kind of review what they've already learned, building up to this concept, and also things to help them look ahead and preview. So this is already existing content that is on the GeoGebra site. And what I'm gonna do is I wanted to talk more about customizing. So we can take something like this existing lesson, go to the dots on the right. I'm logged into my account, but I'm going to copy this activity. I'm just going to do the lesson for the sake of time. You can also make a copy of the book and work on both components. But I'm creating a copy here. And if you've seen the editor before, you'll notice that, yeah, there's different elements here. There's like questions that I can personalize. I can make copies of questions or delete them or just move them around. And you'll see that there's, yeah, multiple choice and short answer areas. There's an applet here. And there's more here that students can play around with. What I can also do is I can go to the bottom and I can add an element. So if I wanted to add other media, that's there. So if I wanted to put like a question at the end that had my students' names or something, right? I can add like a question there and basically personalize it for my class, and I can add more culturally relevant things for them within a lesson. So for now, I'm just going to save and close this. And then to find
Monique, there's a question in the chat: how to get from the curriculum to GeoGebra? Did you address that question?
So from the what do you mean from the
curriculum?
From the curriculum, you can just go to the GeoGebra homepage by just clicking on the top or something like that. So I don't, maybe in the chat they can clarify maybe another question. I can address it later.
Okay.
But to find a lot of your existing resources, for those of you who may not have seen this yet, but I like to go to the GeoGebra homepage and then under profile, you can see here's an example of the link that I created with the classroom. You should be able to see it under your profile, even as you've entered as a student. Here's my copy of the IM activity that I created. And I can even, as you see here on the create button, I can even create a folder to organize things. So if you wanted to create multiple lessons for your students for different sections, this is a great way to organize it. So I do this for now and add this in here. So I like to collect the links and then I add it here to this folder. And from this copy of my activity, I can go to the top right and I can create a lesson out of this. And I can also, again, share this link. So if you wanted to join this as well, you can. Now, for those of something that you can also do, which makes technology really powerful, is I can go in and I can edit this activity again. And I can make a change. And it will appear in, these changes will appear in the classroom. You might need to refresh the page, but it will be reflected in the new, in the classroom. Yeah, here's my last minute question. Okay. And again, one of the cool things about OER is this remixing that we can do. So we can grab resources and put them in. So if you go to the, I like just always going to the homepage of GeoGebra, but I like to search a lot of my resources. So I've searched this before, so we can make this quick, but I've seen some really cool activities on this site that you can even explore under resources, or you can look at certain people and look at their resources. But I like to look at things like this. Like, this is a game for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. I can let you explore that on this specific applet on your own, but I can add this to my existing lesson as well. Maybe at the end of a class period, I can add an element, go to GeoGebra, and insert this applet here by pasting the link. That's my favorite way to do things, is I like to explore in another tab and then copy and paste the link. So I see it here, I'm going to add it. Hit done, save and close. All right, that's saved. And then the changes will be shown here at the very bottom. So as you can see, you can kind of even remix as you go. You don't have to like have it perfect and then share your classroom with your students. They can just, you can make the changes as you go along, and that can help with things like pacing. Okay. All right. Just a few little things I wanted to show about finding OER resources on the GeoGebra site. So let's say you're on the homepage of GeoGebra. Some of the things that I like to do as an instructional designer is just to explore resources. I like looking for inspiration for things, whether I create things for myself or I adapt other people's work. So of course, if I have a certain topic, I like to use the search bar. You can also go to featured resources and look at kind of what GeoGebra has curated. So let's say Numble has been, as you've seen from Stephen, just one of the fun things that we can use at the beginning of a class period. Sometimes I like to just add specific activities to my favorites. And that way I can, look either under resources or profile. I can look at the things that I favorited right there. So I can refer to it right away. I also like to click on the author and just, follow them, and so that I get updates about the cool stuff that they're doing. So that way I can have kind of a curated search in a way of resources and people that I want to follow. But also sometimes it's just fun to go to the resources tab and just explore certain topics. Like, I haven't touched probability in a while, but sometimes I like to look at what's there. Something that I also like to do that most people don't know about is my country is the US, but what I like to do is also explore a lot of resources from other countries. GeoGebra is international. So over here on the left-hand side, under language, I like to kind of check out what things are happening in other countries. So for example, I'm going to go to German, and then specifically this one, Österreich means Austria. So GeoGebra is based in Austria. So I like to kind of see what's going on in that country. And so what happens is the language gets changed, but also the resources are curated for that specific country. So what I like to do is I like to right click or double tap if you're on like a touchpad. And I'm on Edge right now, but Chrome I know also works. Someone might need to confirm, but other browsers usually have this feature. But I'm going to translate this to English because I don't actually understand German very well. But this is one way to not only access resources from like other countries or in other languages, but also just to translate things. So for example, if you have students that are English language learners, then you want to make these things accessible to them and not let things like vocabulary get in the way. But yeah, I'm going to go to the homepage from the Austrian view.
Can I ask you something, Monique, here about languages? Is it location when you change to other language? Is location still American, California, or is location changing to?
Yeah, the location actually also is changed. So these featured resources are actually curated for country. So here, this is called Flink. So IM is in America. IM is the one that's the first thumbnail, but here Flink is an Austrian project. An Austrian OER project. And so sometimes I like to look in here and look for inspiration for some of the work that they're doing there.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Yeah, so this is how I like to explore and get inspiration for things. Yeah, so now I'm going to go back to my settings. So again, I'm going to go down here on the left-hand side. I'm going to change back to English US. That's where I'm from. And then I have a little bit more time to show you a little bit of what I like to also do with OER outside of GeoGebra. So I'm going to use a new example of a lesson. As you might have seen in other sessions, what you can do is you can create your own materials from scratch. So under profile, I can hit the create button, create an activity. And do this. And I'm going to create like a notes applet. And if you haven't seen from other sessions, something that you can do is insert a lot of different medias in a notes applet. So for example, if OER content is not just restricted to digital materials, say you were online and you found some OER content that was printable, then here's an example of like, I'm just going to put in a PDF of a number chart. And that way it's just there so that I don't have to have two separate media for my students. Like it's just all done online, for example. And then that way they have access to the pen tools or other tools. So that's one thing I like to do. Another thing that I like to do is sometimes you can embed other online resources. So if they're open to be used and embedded, you can do so. So here is an example of let me pull it up. A science activity from PhET. This is a US university, basically project of online science simulations. They're also OER and have a very similar mission to GeoGebra. So all of their simulations are usable for things like redistribution. You can go to, if you can find on a particular resource, the embed code for something, you can copy that embed code and you can actually paste it in. So if you go to web under URL, you can paste in the embed code. It'll take a second to pull the resource. But here is what it looks like to embed another simulation. So if you have like a science thing that you wanted to attach on, you can actually include that in a lesson. It doesn't save the same way that all the GeoGebra resource will save if you create a live lesson or like a GeoGebra classroom with it. But I think it's really cool that you can just grab and go and pull and kind of mix and throw it all together. All right. So that is most of what I had planned. Just a reminder that these sessions will be, they are recorded. And so they will be posted sometime. The materials, all the slides that I have will be posted somewhere. If you wanted to just contact me directly, here is my email. Feel free to email me with other questions. I'm going to paste all of the links that were created, either the customized lessons or the GeoGebra classroom links. I'll include them in the slides and throw them in there. The last thing I wanted to talk about was I just gave you a little bit of taste of some of the things that you can do, but there's always more to learn. And I want to enable you to discover things for yourself. So here is how you can find the Learn page of GeoGebra. If you're on the home page, just scroll to the bottom. You'll see a bunch of resources for things like tutorials, but also down here, there's a Learn GeoGebra link. You can click on that, and there are things to kind of help get you started or help your colleagues get started or explore. Resources, recorded webinars, there's even like social media groups and forums, but that is there in case you want to just kind of dive in even more. Yes, so thank you, and then
okay, thank you, Monique, so much. Thank you so much. It was wonderful, very informative session. Thank you so much. We will be slowly finishing this session because we have a couple more sessions to go before finish. Thank you, Monique from California. And we will be we are also sharing your information on our GeoGebra conference page for participants, for presenters, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, and you know, I hope to see you also next year for the Florida GeoGebra Conference 2023, maybe in person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Have a good one, everyone.
And,
go check out Rob. He's doing some cool stuff on gamification.
Thank you, wonderful. Thank you. So we will finish that, and please meet in the lobby and move to the next next session. Thank you very much. Bye bye.